Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update. This is Matt. And, the Bears did jettison everybody, specifically Phil Emery, Mark Trestman, and Aaron Cromer. And I know a lot of people out there have been thinking, well, why hasn't the rest of the staff been? The biggest reason is they owed it to Aaron Cromer, they owed it to the team, and they owed it to the organization and the NFL to fire Aaron Cromer and have that as a permanent mark on his record, his resume, and any Google search that's out there. Yes, Mel Tucker is a very, very poor defensive coordinator for the NFL. The secret's out on that. Firing him does nobody any good, especially for him. So at least he was able to keep his mouth shut. So that's probably the biggest reason why he was not let go. And the same for Joe DeCamillis, the Bears special team coach. Yes, they're under contract. They're being paid to basically find another job. So look at it that way. I don't expect any coaching staff to really bring them on or hold them over for whoever is next. That being said, some head coach candidates have been interviewed, and some GM candidates have been interviewed. The big news that was really to come out of Black Monday was the fact that the Bears were seeking the assistance of a one Ernie Accorsi. And his specialty is drafting, management, all those sorts of fun things that a GM actually has to do for an organization in the NFL. Most recently, his last greatest success, because that was the last time he really was a GM, was trading the second-round pick to the San Diego Chargers for Eli Manning. What has Eli Manning done? Oh, had a couple Super Bowls. Yes, that's being a very competent quarterback. So I really kind of can't complain for that. He also had very early success in identifying Johnny Unitas, as well as Bernie Kosar for the Cleveland Browns. So he has been around. He has had success in different eras, and that's a very, very good thing. The problem is that Ted Phillips and George McCaskey, and ultimately Ted Phillips, have the final say as who's to be hired as head coach and GM for the Bears organization. Now, there's two ways to really kind of look at that. One, people could say, and Ted Phillips, if this goes bad, this next couple of years go really, really bad, Ted Phillips can say, well, look at what Ernie Accorsi did. Here's the problem. You went on record in stating the fact that you were the one that would make the ultimate decision. So, as long as we, the fans, and the media out there do not forget the fact that Ted Phillips was the one that ultimately was to decide the fate and future of the Bears organization, well, we all know whose fault it is for the future. So, that's all fine, well, and good. But what about the future? What is going on right now? Well, recent indications and all signs point to the fact that once former scout and current player personnel individual for the Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Ballard, former scout of the Chicago Bears, has interviewed for the job and is most likely going to get that job. Now, if there's anything that is really good that could potentially come from that, is the fact that he could bring along Dave Toub, special teams coach once of the Chicago Bears, now currently of the Kansas City Chiefs, to be head coach. Why do I say that? Lots of indications from current Bears players, former Bears players, that he is an individual that truly does command respect of the players, has control of a locker room, and knows what he's doing. One other aspect that I do like is the fact that he and Chris Ballard do have a tremendously fantastic working relationship, being in constant contact about roster needs and the bottom of the roster and what players can fill it, and being able to identify talent. One player that Chris Ballard has, a couple players that Ballard did identify and fought for picks was Peanut Tillman, cornerback Charles Peanut Tillman, as well as running back Matt Forte. Personally, I think those are two very good finds. There are a couple black marks, I shouldn't say black marks, but a couple of blemishes on his drafting record as well, or scouting record, but no one's perfect. So I'm kind of willing to accept that. I want to consider it almost as a leap of faith in thinking that this is somebody that, while has tremendous inside knowledge of the workings of Halas Hall and upper management, is able to manipulate that to his own benefit. What do I mean by that specifically? I would love to see and know whether he's able to have control over his roster and get the players that he wants, and do the things that he needs to be able to do to be in command and control of the Bears franchise. Because that's what he really should be, because, well, Ted Phillips is not a football person. He does not understand the game of football. He is an accountant. He is somebody that is no business truly being on the football side of operations. So, that being said, not to say that he's able to play one off the other or usurp Ted Phillips' position, but I'd love for him to be able to manipulate his situation to the best of his abilities and play the game or game the system. And this Bears system is so screwed up that I would love for him to be able to fix that and make it for his benefit. Again, the flip side of that is the simple argument that he is of the Bears franchise from before, from the Jerry Angelo era. That's not necessarily a sterling era. Yes, some division titles. Yes, a Super Bowl appearance, but never getting there, never becoming the dominant force of the NFL or the NFC North that the Bears have blindly professed themselves to truly be. So I guess from the individuals that I see out there, if you're not going to be able to get the individual, I can't recall his name right now, from the Baltimore Ravens, who's set to take over once their football operations people exit. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. You can't magically pluck the Steelers player front office. You can't pluck Mike Tomlin, who I consider to be probably the best coach in the NFL. You can't pluck these guys away. You're not going to be able to do it. So what do you have to do? You have to make the best of what is out there, and I think going with some familiarity and having somebody that has the command and respect of the locker room and is also very good at scouting and identifying talent, two people. I'd rather have two eyes that are fairly competent and very competent, at least to fill out a roster, more so than a bunch of lunatics out there that are married to an insane system and not fully understanding the whole football operation, as opposed to being like Lovie Smith, who's so focused on defense, he's completely devoid of any offensive knowledge. Flip that to the other side recently, Mark Trestman. Mark Trestman being a complete lunatic in blindly believing in his offensive system, even when it doesn't work in the NFL, dropping little tidbits such as growing the man and growing football, and not coming to terms and having any sort of sense of optics to the situation. So, that all being said, I'm apprehensive that the Bears are going to make the wrong choice, especially if they knew who they were going to go after, specifically somebody like Chris Ballard, who is familiar with the Bears front office, who interviewed last time. I'd really like to see, and I hope if he is ending up being hired, he interviewed last time for the Bears GM position. Why didn't they hire him then? So that's a little disappointing to see, especially if, depending on who they could have, I shouldn't say depending on who they would have had, but why not hire him then? What's the difference now? I certainly hope the media asks that question if it is Chris Ballard, and I certainly hope he's somebody that can command the football side of things. So that all has left to be left to be seen. So we'll see what happens there. Certainly, it's just I almost feel like the longer this goes on, and this has gone on now for about 10 days or so, that a sense of dread is going to overcome everybody, specifically fans of the organization, as well as, I guess, the organization. They're just not going to know what to do, and they're just going to wet the bed and make another poor decision and blame Ernie Accorsi for it. I guess the big problem is, why are you hiring somebody who you know who you want to do just to make sure that they're doing it right? I don't understand, personally. They're not giving Accorsi the freedom to operate. If he was, I'd have a little bit more faith, and I'd be a little less apprehensive. I have a good sense of apprehension now, and I'm very nervous about how the organization wants to be run over the next several years. So we'll see what happens there. All I know is that I don't expect Jay Cutler to really be with the team. If he is with the team, okay, you're getting what you can out of that money. Otherwise, I don't expect him to be with the team much longer. Brandon Marshall, I heard they can end up saving $4 million against the cap, and that's a really good number, because that's certainly worth him not being around anymore. Yeah, it's about a $5 million payout, but I'd rather pay 5 as opposed to 9. And that's just good business as far as I'm concerned. So, in other news around sports here in Chicago, Blackhawks have been they've been okay of late, dropping a couple recent ones, specifically last night to the Colorado Avalanche, and on national TV on New Year's Day, in the Winter Classic. I don't particularly care for the Winter Classic games. Sure, it's a nice little novelty for fair weather fans, amateur NHL fans, but I'd rather just see a regular game. I really would. I don't particularly. It's a nice gimmick. That's good, but when it's eaten up, when it doesn't necessarily fit on New Year's Day at 1 p.m., especially with college football, as traditionally college football owns New Year's Day, it leaves a little to be desired from their marketing and PR team over at the NHL. So. Bulls have been streaking, which is good. They lost tonight against the Jazz, but okay, you're not going to win them all. I guess I missed a couple really good games recently against the Rockets and the Nuggets. So what I'm hearing right now is a team that's figuring things out and learning to really play. I don't want to say maybe learning to play, but a team that's hitting a good point of the season right now for themselves, a good confidence point. And that's good. From what I can tell also, Thibodeau is getting out of his own way, which is a very, very good thing. Jimmy Butler is becoming what the cheerleaders have said and wanted for Jimmy Butler to be this potential superstar. I don't quite think he's a superstar yet. I think he's more of a product of his environment. And what do I mean by that? Well, he is the longest tenured student, seemingly, of the Thibodeau school of basketball. So I like that. I understand he's a very hard worker. That's good. That certainly plays off to the fan base, is probably the most gentle way to put that. And he's somebody that's cerebral, smart, understands the game, and is learning the game in a better manner. And I think Thibodeau has a lot to do with that. If he wasn't with Thibodeau, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just a journeyman. I don't particularly think him to be just a journeyman. I think he's a competent piece to an NBA puzzle, especially with a very weak East. I think the Bulls are in a very, very good position to at least get to the conference finals, of course, barring injury. So we should see what happens there. And I think I'm going to start trying to pay a little bit more attention to the Bulls as they're starting to really deserve it. So I like to hear that. I like to hear those things, see those things. So that is what will get me interested more so in the Bulls during the regular season, because, boy, it's a really tough and really long regular season. The White Sox ended up picking up now new fan favorite for those children of the 90s with EMELIO Bonafacio. If you don't know what that means, well, take a look at Night at the Roxbury and the silliness and stupidity that it is for all of its cult classic humor, and just what a treasure and what a joy that movie is. So looking forward to seeing him be another fantastic addition, hopefully another fantastic addition that Rick Hahn has put together for the White Sox this year. And both teams are very interested. They're making everybody anticipate the spring that much more, especially with sub-frigid temperatures here. So that'll do it for the mainstream sports. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to talk to you next week. And so stay safe until then, as I will transition into what has been going on in the world of wrestling. Well, the WWE is deciding to, I don't know.